Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to pull out those key insights from the sources you asked us about. Today, it's Michelle Obama's book, The Light We Carry. Really resonant stuff. She talks about it like a personal toolbox, ways to handle uncertainty, find your strength. Feels pretty timely. Okay, so let's unpack this. To really get it, we need to start where she starts, with this really poignant memory. It's about her father's cane, this quiet, slim cane that just appeared in their house when she was tiny, maybe 4 or 5. His multiple sclerosis was just starting.
Yeah, and that cane is such a powerful symbol. She says the family just saw it as a tool, like a hammer or something. But underneath, it was this quiet sign of this vulnerability creeping in. And for her, being so young, it became this really early lesson. Not just seeing her dad change, but like understanding what it feels like to be different. To navigate the world when you're, quote, marked by something you can't much control. It made the whole family, as she puts it, watchful. Really watchful.
And that beautiful story, it just immediately connects, doesn't it? It's something we all feel, because the book really dives into that feeling of being, wobbly and unsettled, a bit out of control, anxious about the future, which, let's face it, after the last few years, pandemic, injustice, division, that feeling is everywhere. So the book isn't just looking back, it's really a guide how to stay upright inside of challenge and change. Okay, so starting from that foundation, finding strength, even when things feel shaky, she moves to this really
Interesting idea, the power of small things. How sometimes the smallest of tools can help us get sorted when everything feels huge.
Exactly. She talks very openly about the early pandemic months.
What can you actually do?
And her answer is maybe not what you'd expect.
Knitting.
Yeah. She found that simple, repetitive action helped her, quote, go small in order to think big again. It connected her hands to something real, something she could actually accomplish. And I totally get that. I remember during one really rough patch, I started baking bread almost obsessively, just the measuring, the kneading. It was so concrete, something I could start and finish when everything else felt, chaotic.
Yes. That cast on and bind off, she mentions the start and the finish. She calls them bookends of something manageable and finite. Such a great way to put it. It provides structure in the chaos.
Right. And this connects to something bigger, she observes, especially with young people.
Oh, definitely. That immense pressure kids feel today to make a difference, change the whole system, like now. It's overwhelming. And it can lead to real mental health struggles. She gives these examples, like Deanna, this high schooler, just crushed by the violence and drugs around her. Or Tiffany, who has these huge ambitions, like Beyonce level, but her mental health struggles just block her.
Yeah, it shows how chasing the great, that huge ambition, can actually stop you from doing anything. It becomes the enemy of good, leading to paralysis. So her advice, maybe counterintuitive, is go towards the small. Find something active, something immersive. Wallpapering a room, baking, nail art, gardening. Whatever works for you. It's about grabbing those small victories, giving yourself that gift of absorption, and, importantly, forgiving yourself for needing to temporarily duck out of the storm.
And the thing is, those small
Efforts, they add up. They make you feel less stuck, less paralyzed, and paradoxically, maybe more ready to eventually tackle the big stuff.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about
he understood it was an actor, the screen, they were safe on the couch, he had context. And her point isn't, to never feel fear. That's impossible. It's about learning to find your footing inside situations that scare you. Because the choices we make when we're afraid, those often shape the bigger outcomes. There's this great little story from a holiday play rehearsal. This creepy-looking green turtle costume she had to wear. Her Aunt Robbie basically gave her an ultimatum. Wear it and perform, or sit out, no coddling. And that forced her to
Decode the fear. Was it real danger? No, it was just newness, unfamiliarity. She had to learn to, quote, layer my thoughts over my nerves. Critical skill.
It really is. Because think about it, as adults, how often do we over-accommodate our fears? We avoid things, which she calls the adult equivalent of a child's shriek. It hits home, right? It makes you ask yourself that question. Am I scared because this is actually dangerous or just because it's new? She admits she felt that herself, big time. When Barack first considered running for president, her initial reaction was intense fear. But eventually she realized it was mostly fear of the unknown, the discomfort, the sheer newness of it all.
And fear's impact can be huge. It can literally fence in people's lives. She talks about her grandfathers, Southside and Dandy. Their lives were genuinely circumscribed by fear.
Yeah.
Southside avoided people, especially white people, which limited him. Dandy got so out of practice navigating unfamiliar places that a simple car ride with her became this petrified experience because his nerves were shot. Fear was driving the car, basically.
Wow.
So it really forces us to think, how do we get better at telling the difference? When is fear a useful warning signal, and when is it just a cage?
Luckily, she says her parents were really good at teaching them to parse that alertness thoughtfully. Her mom had this great approach with her own daughters, like when Sasha freaked out seeing Chewbacca at a White House Halloween thing. Her mom's take was, basically, if you shield your kids from ever feeling fear, you're also shielding them from feeling competent.
That's powerful. Competence comes from facing things, not avoiding them.
Exactly.
And it reminds me of Lin-Manuel Miranda's take on stage fright. He calls it rocket fuel. You can choose, he says, to fall underneath it or stand on top of it. She tells this amazing story about him performing an early Hamilton song at the White House. He was visibly nervous, raw piece, high stakes. His mind was screaming, fail, but then he caught her mom's eye in the audience, got this reassuring look, and he just channeled all that nervous energy into this absolutely electrifying performance.
Wow.
It just shows how that fearful mind, it loves to pop up right at peak stress moments. And it has one goal: veto. Shut it down.
So what's her strategy for dealing with that inner voice? It's actually beautifully simple to acknowledge it. She calls it noisy, but generally ineffectual, more thunder than lightning. Love that. And then she just talks to it like an old acquaintance. Oh, hello, it's you again. Thanks for showing up, for making me so alert. But I see you. You're no monster to me.
Just naming it, disarming it, yeah.
Okay, let's move to something gentler, but just as important. This idea of self-compassion, starting signs. She shares this simple practice from her friend Ron.
He looks in the mirror each morning and just says, "Hey, buddy."
It sounds small, but it's actually profound, because for so many people, women especially, she notes, the mirror is a scary place.
And this connects beautifully to an epiphany the author Toni Morrison had about parenting. Morrison realized her critical face often showed up before her loving face when greeting her kids, making them wonder, what's wrong now?
Oof, yeah.
So Morrison trained herself to dial back the judgment, lead with a lit-up face, to convey gladness, that simple message of enoughness. You are enough right now as you are.
And that feeling of gladness, just being seen and accepted, it's often hard to come by in life, she points out. We're constantly told we have to prove our worth. She saw the contrast so clearly at those White House take your child to work days. The kids didn't care about the briefing books. They wanted hugs. They wanted that unconditional gladness.
Right. That basic human need.
And she made it her mission as First Lady to try and be that light, that source of gladness for every kid she met, knowing it might be rare for them.
So the invitation for us, for you listening, is to practice that. Practice making a home delivery of approval and kindness to yourself. It doesn't have to be loud or public, just a quiet but grateful acknowledgement that you've made it to the start of a new day. Just boxing out that inner critic for a moment, starting kind.
It's a powerful little tool.
Now, let's tackle this feeling of being different, a really central theme for her. She starts way back in childhood, feeling different simply because she was tall. For her brother, Craig, height was an advantage in sports. For her, it felt like a burden. She dreamed of being like the gymnast Nadia Comaneci, all tiny perfection. But she realized, I wasn't built to be a Nadia, too tall.
And the impact of that goes deep. As she says, it's hard to dream about what's not visible. If you don't see anyone who looks like you doing the thing you aspire to, it's tough. It creates this loneliness, this feeling of being mismatched to your own hopes. She felt it strongly at Princeton, too. A minority on two fronts, black and a woman. Feeling like she had to cross a force field just to be there. Hyper-aware of her difference, of the stereotypes. It really brings W.E.B. Du Bois's idea of double consciousness to life, doesn't it? That feeling of constantly seeing yourself through the eyes of others who might be judging you. The mental energy that takes.
But even with that awareness, she had this anchor from her father, his simple, powerful motto, No one can make you feel bad if you feel good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
She describes his ease despite struggle, how he carried himself unburdened by the judgment of others, despite his MS, despite the racism he faced.
Incredible resilience.
Totally. He taught them to be curious, to understand how the world worked, and basically showed them through his own life. You can get there even if I can't.
But the book also shows how deeply those societal narratives of mattering or not mattering can cut. That story about her brother Craig getting stopped by the police at 12 for riding his own new bike, just because he was a black boy on a nice bike.
Gut wrench.
It's such a stark example of a stereotype just erasing reality. The underlying message being, you don't belong here, you don't deserve this, you stand out, you don't matter. So the question becomes, how do we fight back against those narratives? How do we rewrite them?
And she gives these amazing examples of people doing just that, leveraging their difference. Like Stacey Abrams, valedictorian, goes to the governor's mansion for a reception, gets stopped at the gate. You don't belong here? Why? Because her family took the bus.
Unbelievable.
But that moment, it crystallized her resolve. It wasn't about what that guard saw in her. It was about who she knew herself to be and who she was going to be, turning insult into fuel.
And that's a pattern. Ali Wong, being a pregnant Asian American woman in comedy, something may be seen as an obstacle, and making it her unique strength, her perspective. Mindy Kaling, owning being a diversity hire, acknowledging the privilege others had, and then using her position to, as Michelle puts it, literally write her way into visibility for other women of color.
They harnessed it.
Exactly. They harness rather than hide whatever sets them apart. That's the key insight here.
So the takeaway is powerful. Our differences are treasures, and they're also tools. Embracing them helps everyone. It normalizes differentness, makes more stories feel okay, widens our collective view of what's possible.
Even while acknowledging, and this is important, that the work of visibility is difficult and it's distributed unevenly. It's not easy.
No, definitely not. Okay, shifting again. Let's talk connection, relationships, community. So vital. She tells this funny story about her boot camp weekends with girlfriends. Her idea was like intense workouts. But her friends were like, no. We need steak, dessert, definitely wine.
A realistic boot camp.
Something.
It shows that friendship isn't just about shared goals. It's about showing up, closeness, commitment, and, compromise, meeting each other where you are.
And this need for connection, it's not just a nice to have, it's fundamental. She mentions Dr. Vivek Murthy's work on loneliness, how widespread it was even before the pandemic, and often wrapped up in shame. He raises interesting points, too, about how maybe modern childhood, so scheduled, leaves less room for that messy, make-it-up-as-you-go play where kids learn social skills and, our phones, how they can become these rectangular shields blocking real, spontaneous connection.
Yeah, the easy out. She talks about her own challenges maintaining friendships in the White House bubble, everything that's so charged, potential gossip everywhere. She describes being cautious at first with Danielle, another mom from her daughter's school, but gradually they built trust, found that realness, that safety, even under that intense spotlight. It shows that genuine connection is possible anywhere, but it takes intention. She brings in this psychological idea of a social convoy, those essential people who travel through life with you, your support system.
I like that image.
Yeah. And her personal version is the kitchen table, this core group of trusted friends, different ages, mentors, younger voices, people who offer safety and belonging. And crucially, she stresses that no one person will fulfill your every need. You need different people for different things. Keep making room at your table.
That's such good advice.
And part of that is reveling in their uniqueness, appreciating friends for who they are and letting them off the hook for what they can't or don't bring. No unrealistic expectations.
Okay, so from friends to partners. She touches on her daughters navigating dating life now, that flea market stage, trying things out. And her big hope for them is that they really focus on learning the skills of independence first, before jumping into serious commitment. Build yourself first.
Makes sense. Because real and lasting love, as she puts it, it doesn't just happen in the honeymoon phase. It happens mostly in the realm of in-between. It takes work, humility, compromise. Dealing with those competing and often conflicting ideas that come up when you merge two lives.
Oh, yeah?
She uses her parents' hilarious, great toilet paper dispute of 1960 as an example. Seemingly tiny argument, but it masked deeper stuff about their different family backgrounds. And her mom's practice, this is fascinating, of quietly renewing her commitment. She'd actually contemplate leaving her husband, think it through, and then actively choose to remain rather than run.
Wow. That's deep.
It really makes you think about the dynamics, right? How relationships are always shifting, like beads on an abacus, someone's always adjusting. How do you navigate that imbalance thoughtfully?
And she's very direct about her own marriage, too. Busting the myth that my husband is a perfect man or ours is a perfect marriage. She talks about needing couples counseling, about her own petty resentments. Her point is, we only hurt ourselves when we hide our realness away.
So true. Authenticity matters.
She contrasts it with her friend Carissa, who stayed in a casual relationship for a year, dodging a lot of realness because she didn't want to seem high maintenance, and it just left her stuck.
Whereas with Barack, she highlights his forthrightness, his deep curiosity right from the start. That trip he took home to Hawaii for Christmas early on, seeing his constancy, his dogged devotion to his family, that showed her his real core values, not just romance.
The real person.
Exactly. And that insight, she says, that's where
Certainty begins, realizing they could be more than just tourists in each other's lives. That deep knowing.
Okay, let's talk parenting and mentorship, another big piece.
it wasn't about neglect, it was deeply thoughtful, aimed at fostering self-sufficiency. Her parents gave them skills, not shortcuts, taught them how to do laundry, wash dishes, rely on themselves. And her mom believed it's easy for kids to make mistakes when they're little, let them make them.
Yeah.
And then you can't make too big a deal out of it either, because if you do, they'll stop trying. Such wisdom there. Let them try, let them fail safely.
And she connects this to her mom's own childhood experience.
Growing up in a house with this precious glass coffee table where kids were meant to be seen and not heard.
Ah, okay.
So having lived that, her mom made sure
Totally. But it taught her something crucial. Each kid was different, her own temperament, her own sensitivities, her own needs. Malia needed more guardrails. Sasha wanted more freedom. The goal wasn't one size fits all. It was giving them the chance to be heard and seen, practice making choices, and feel the consistency of your gladness, that unconditional support again.
and she extends this beyond just family. Talking about mentorship, her team, how much she relies on her staff, Kristen Jarvis, Kristen Jones, Melissa Winter, not just for work, but they became like big sisters to her daughters, too. That village idea.
Yes, the village. And this leads to another really important point about vulnerability as strength. The story of Chinna, a staffer who was worried her father's prison record would be a problem for Michelle. But Michelle's reaction was completely non-judgmental, and that simple acceptance unlocked Chinna, helped her let go of the shame, that imposter feeling. And when Chinna later shared her story publicly, it helped so many others feel less alone. It created this wider sphere of belonging. It shows how something you might see as an imperfection, your history, can actually become the source code for her steadiness and strength. Owning your story.
Okay, finally, let's land on her famous mantra. We go high.
Yes. So well known now.
And she's clear. It's not just a feeling, like being passively virtuous. It's a simple motto for acting with integrity, responding thoughtfully, especially when things get ugly.
Exactly. It's something you do rather than merely feel. That's the critical distinction. It's not about being complacent or just waiting for change. It's a commitment, she says, to showing people around you, kids, friends, community, what it looks like to live with love and operate with decency.
How do you do that?
It involves that pause,
Yeah.
taking a breath before I react, turning a raw reaction into a response, recognizing, as she puts it so vividly, that emotions are not plans. Rage can be a dirty windshield. Hurt is like a broken steering wheel. You can't navigate well like that.
Great analogies. She uses her big convention speeches as examples. 2008, the teleprompter fails, but she knew her stuff. Readiness saved her. Then 2016, middle of a thunderstorm, intense political climate. She drew on all her experience, on her father's example of going high. She described herself as comfortably afraid, using that adrenaline, that nerve-wracking rise as fuel.
Yeah, harnessing it again. But she also emphasizes, and this is key, going high is work. It's often hard, tedious, inconvenient, even bruising. It means ignoring the haters and doubters,
Yeah.
building walls sometimes against negativity, and just keeping working when others around you may have grown tired or cynical.
Setting the course.
Right. She quotes John Lewis, "Freedom is not a state, it is an act. Going high is an act. It's making your work count, making your voice heard, despite the despites."
So quite a toolbox we've unpacked here from the light we carry.
Mm-hmm.
Going small to manage the big stuff, decoding fear, starting kind with yourself, valuing difference, building community, being real in relationships, parenting for independence.
It's a lot. And it really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? How do we actually use these tools in our own lives? Especially when the world can feel, let's be honest, pretty grim and unrelenting sometimes. She acknowledges those feelings, the anger, the hurt, the panic. They're real. But she also warns they can lead us into the ditch if we let them take over completely.
So maybe the final thought for you to chew on today is this. What's one small thing, just one, you could do today? Maybe embrace a little bit of your own unique light, or decode one small fear that's been bugging you, or perhaps make one gesture to strengthen a connection in your own community. Just one small step.